Like I look up and I'm like, oh shoot.
It was a bad sight.
We got a big old wake. And we got shook in, and then, we just hear a lot of containers just falling on each other.
I'm Sky Rife in Air 7 over the port of Long Beach. Earlier this morning, we had a massive incident on one of the container ships. As many as 100 containers have fallen off the ship here into the water. It appears to be clothing and shoes, things of that nature that we see in the water. The real concern is whether or not anyone may have been injured on the support boat. You can see all those containers fell down onto that boat there. That's a real worry. Exactly what happened here, that's still under investigation.
Okay, season 2 bonus episodes. We investigate the incident on the waterfront.
At ITS, cans falling off the ship.
Yep. So as part of this investigative journalism we're now doing, we're interviewing Sean Perello. We're going to get his view. He was the crane operator there.
Yes, he was one of the crane operators there. There was 4 or 5 crane operators, but he's the one that we're going to talk to.
And yep, we're going to see what he has to say about what happened.
Exactly. Bird's eye view.
Well, first I heard it. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with how we stack the cans in the yard in a pyramid shape. I thought a yard top handler dropped an empty and it rolled down like the stairs of a pile, like 6 high came and hit 5 high, 4 high, because that's what I heard. It was just boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, you hear a lot of noises up there. So, unexpected loud noises aren't anything out of the ordinary, but I thought, man, someone really messed up out there. But, obviously I'm operating and I can't turn around and look at everything. And then I heard it again about 20 seconds later, and I just looked up and there were 70 cans floating in the water. As a hammerhead operator, that's the last thing you ever want to see is a container floating in the water.
For sure.
But when you see 60 to 70 of them out there, it was pretty amazing. And then, so I looked to the crane to my left, the forward that was forward of me. And by this time, the ship had recoiled back towards the dock. And at that point, you're just stunned. It's like, I don't know what's happening. I got right on the radio and called Ryan. I don't know if the ship boss, you've talked to him.
Yeah, he's going to be on the program there, Sean. Hey, Sean, let me ask you a question. Did you notice when it came in, was it listing when it came in, or you went up when the ship was already docked?
Yeah, I went up. The ship was already docked. The lashers were already on board. I've heard people say that the ship looked listed as it was coming in. I've also heard that the lashers were complaining that the lashing was super, super tight, which means that there might have been an issue out at sea and the mates tightened up the gear out there, as it's going back and forth. Myself, I did not see a list either way. I did know my letter called for, because that Zim ship that comes in, they're under contract to put X amount of cans on chassis. So my letter only had about 8 bomb cart moves that were on 8 high. So I had to skim off the top. All the rest were going to go to wheels all day. So I did notice when I got all the way offshore and picked up the offshore can that, when you pick them up, you can tell, by the way the can acts, if the ship's level or near level or listing or not. I did notice there was quite a bad list when I picked up the last can offshore. So it started to happen, I think, more of after it was tied up. I've heard both ways, that a line broke and made it list one way, and they haven't come to a complete decision on what happened yet. But it looked to me like they ballasted the ship wrong, and it just leaned one way and broke the lines, and then the ship recoiled, and when it snapped back the other way, those 2 bays just let go and went right into the water.
Wow. So it was the start of the ship. So how many cranes were on the ship? Do you recall?
I believe we had 4. There might have been 5, but I believe it was 4 gangs.
Okay. So you guys all started skimming off the top? Or did guys
No.
started discharging inshore right away?
Yeah, that's kind of common practice.
Right.
You get that inshore stack off, all the time. If I wouldn't have had my letter calling for just to skim the top because those were the only bomb cart moves, I would have taken the whole inshore stack off. I always do it. I
Right.
call that the death stack. I take it off first thing. That's the one that's going to come down and drop on the guys down below. So I always take that stack off.
Right.
So
Standard practice. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe the other guys were probably following that too. You know what I mean? Getting some of those offshore cans out of the way. And keep in mind, there probably was only about 20 something cans taken off the ship. You know what I mean? It wasn't like we were there discharging, all the inshore cans off. And then that's what made it list. That's just how all the ships do it everywhere in the harbor.
Right. Right.
So,
20 cans coming off, like you just said, 25 cans coming off the inshore side. It should have never, had that kind of disaster. Never.
Never. Yeah. So I honestly think it was something with the ballasting. I don't know if someone pressed inshore when they should have pressed offshore or vice versa, but
Right.
something with the ballasting made that ship list really hard.
Yes. Now
Sure.
after the cans started falling, then you called Ryan, the ship boss, and then he
Mhm.
responded. Were you in the back reach all the time, or did you go across the ship to see what that smokestack tanker that was on the water when the cans fell on the tank?
I basically trolleyed all the way offshore, and it was really a gut wrenching scene to see that them 18, 20 cans stacked on that. It's a scrubber. It's a diesel scrubber, a particulate scrubber that they put like a bonnet over the smokestack to scrub the emissions and make them cleaner. And I've seen that scrubber, and there's probably 4 guys on that thing at all times, and there's always someone moving around on it. I thought for sure that someone wasn't going to be going home that night. Thank God. Luckily, there wasn't any injuries on it, which it was a miracle that there wasn't. But yeah, so I trolleyed offshore and I looked at that and I just couldn't believe my eyes. It was a bad, bad, bad sight. That thing had about 20 cans on it.
Unbelievable.
It was really, crazy.
Yeah, you're right. There was 4 guys on that scrubber, and we're going to interview one of the deckhands there right after we talk to you. But we want to obviously you saw the whole thing. You saw the cans coming down and everything.
Well,
so you
he
had
sounds like he heard it first.
Yes.
It was a sound before a sight.
I heard it when I looked to my right. So 2 bays after me, that was the whole fantail that fell in the water. And it was quite a sight to see, and it's, again, as a hammerhead operator, the last thing you want to do is see anything going in the water and just see a whole bay, half a bay listing over. I mean, the ship really, really did a pretty good back and forth list. And keep in mind, too, that ship is only, I think, 14 or 15 wide. It's not one of these big monsters we get that are pretty much, a lot more stable when they're 20, 21 wide.
Right.
And it was 8 high. I mean, even the biggest ships we get in now are only 8 and 9 high.
Right.
So they really haven't changed much of their practice on it. We've had that ship come back to ITS about 3 times since. I don't think it's coming in 8 high anymore, but they're still putting a lot of cans on that thing.
Right. It's interesting when you said that the lashers said that, they were the cans, the lashing gear was, looked like it was tightened, overly tightened. So I'm going to talk to Joe Aggie. I know that he was the lashing boss at that time. And I'm going to talk to Joe and, get his opinion on what he thought,
Yeah, when that ship's out there rocking back and forth at sea, they go out there and they tighten it up. And, as the ship walks one way, they're able to get an extra turn or 2 on those lashing turnbuckles to make them super tight if they have to. So I think maybe there was some sort of issue that maybe it hit some rough water out there and some cargo shifted. But myself, back to your original question, I didn't see anything that looked out of the ordinary when the ship came in. But then again, I wasn't looking for that either.
Did I hear this correctly? Did the line break?
One of the lines snapped. Yeah,
That's
it
my
snapped when
worst fear. I drive UTR a lot and I'm like always just staring at the lines. Like if that thing tears and ricochets, I don't know if it's designed to not do that, but I'm like, you'd disintegrate.
Yeah, it's game over. I've been on the forward end one time when a line snapped, and you don't forget that sound either. You can feel it before you hear it.
Right.
It's loud and it's violent. Those ropes are under tremendous pressure.
So one of the lines for sure snapped. And that was on the forward or the aft?
You know what? I couldn't even tell you, but that's what I heard is one of the lines broke. Obviously, it's not going to break if it's listing inshore, but once it listed back offshore, because that's what happened is the ship rolled twice. It went one way and then went the other. So after all those cans fell off the offshore side, it all that weight taken off in 10 seconds made the ship list hard back to the inshore side. And that's what I believe made that inshore stack. And thank God it was only one stack, and thank God that crane leg stopped it.
Right. Could have been disaster. Now, all the UTRs were lined up and everything, ready to get cans, right?
Yeah. And that's the other scary thing is, just by the luck, we didn't have any of them fall inshore, which we would have been talking about a whole different story then. So yeah, that was that. Like I said, got down, obviously I parked that thing right away and came down. I wasn't hanging out
for sure
to see what happened, and I came down and, we're all just in awe. No one knew what to say, and then obviously though, the foremen were down there directing, having everyone stay away and go to your safe area by the tower.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then by that time, they wanted everyone out of the vicinity. So we all got out of there. And then within just a few minutes, they had it all cordoned off to where you couldn't even get back over that. I mean, I left some stuff in the crane and I'm like, man, I want to go back and get my backpack and my coffee cup and all that. And, I couldn't even get any of that until days later, and the Coast Guard, they came in and
they took over, right? The Coast Guard took over everything, right?
Coast Guard came in. It was like Fort Knox. You couldn't get up. You couldn't get anywhere near that. I was able, probably might've been a week later. I was one of the operators that was taking off the damaged stuff because we had all those cans up there that were still leaning on its side that didn't fall off, that we had to discharge still.
You jerry rigged everything?
Everything. We had like 10-foot legs on it, and then my crane, I was on the aft end, so I actually had a guy who was hanging from a mobile crane in a man basket because there was no way to get to those cans because it was the fantail. They couldn't discharge a bay like the other crane. The bay that fell, they discharged forward and aft, and they were able to put a zoom boom up there.
Right.
And the guys were able to rig everything from the zoom booms. On my side, we had a guy hanging from a mobile crane in a man cage, which, just adds another layer of stress to the crane operator, Right. And then you have OSHA up there. You got the NTNSB that wants it done their way. And then the salvage company. They're the ones who made the ultimate shot. It was pretty chaotic for a while, but us, once we get going, we got a system and,
right.
we got it on.
The main thing is nobody got hurt.
Everyone was like, oh my God. And I told them, you guys got to get to the guys on the barge, go to the barge right now. That's where if anyone's hurt right now, that's where they're going to be. And then about 45 minutes later, they came and said they're all accounted for. And I was like, thank God,
wow.
They're just nothing short of a miracle.
Oh my gosh, Dad, that interview.
Amazing interview. Like I said before, it's a bird's eye view, but it's funny that he heard sounds in the background, not related to what was actually happening on the vessel. And then when he found out that it wasn't that, it was actually happening on the vessel, turned into something exciting.
Like his mind couldn't even comprehend that was what was happening.
Could not comprehend.
That's wild.
Right.
Now we interviewed
We interviewed Ernesto Alaman. He was one of the 4 guys on the barge, the smoke barge, and cans were falling all over, all around him. It was amazing.
Just from like somebody who saw the pictures, no one survived that. So I'm very curious to hear what his perspective is on it and what he heard and what he saw.
Right.
And when he shit his pants.
right. And getting back to the crane operator, when he went trolley offshore and looked over there, he said, "Oh my God," he was screaming, "Get a hold of somebody because that doesn't look good." So we're going to find out what actually happened.
Okay, there's some normal listing, there's going to be some listing, but this one, it was listing a little bit too much, and I was like, oh shoot, it was trippy. So we go into the crew room, we all talk about it, we go into the crew room, we start trying to make some plans, to see what's going on, but we all, we're like, okay, we're going to hit up the ship and, see if they could correct the listing. But before we could even do that, all the containers started falling from the back. And then we hear from the crew room, and we're like, oh, shoot, like, what is all this? It's just like, we got a big old wake, and we got shucking, and then, we just hear a lot of containers just falling on each other. And we go through the out part where the rails are, and then we see all the containers just in the water floating and just still dropping. So we're like, oh, okay, now let's go to the safest part in the barge, which is, the crew room. It's protected by another 20-foot cube on top. And then on another side, it's connected by the system. And then the other side is pretty clear. So not that much, it's like protection, but, it's protected by the majority of the sides. So we tried going into the room, but only one of the guys made it into the room. And us 3, Rosenthal, Paul, and me, we're outside and we're like, oh, shit. And then we just see all the other freaking containers just start dropping on the generator, on the HPU unit, on the other generators, and then just start falling onto the diesel tank. And so we were like, oh, shit. So we run towards like the backside because the containers are just dropping in the water. They're not dropping on the barge, but the ones in front of us are dropping on the barge. So we're like, okay, well, this one looks less dangerous. So in the video, like where I think one of the Sauce guys has in the video, you could see us running. If you see real closely, you could see like 3 little figures just running,
So one of the 4 made it to the safety spot, and you 3 were running away from the containers falling. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So the back containers, we saw that it wasn't hitting the barge. It was real close, but it wasn't hitting the barge. Just that containers that had spilled into the water was hitting the barge. That's it. But that was the containers that were already in the water. The bay that was closer to the back part of the barge, or where the boom is, it was being, it was safer because the structural housing unit of the vessel was right there, so no containers.
Okay.
So we're like, everybody just go under the house, just goes directly parallel to the house. So we go there, we go directly parallel to the house. And then all we got to do now is just worry about the containers on the side to see if they're gonna fall, they either fall straight down, or if they're gonna move to the side, we got time to run and move away from it. And if anything, the big old metal structure of the boom of the base should be able to stop it. But thank God it didn't go that far. It did pile up pretty big on the barge, but yeah, we're like, go to the structure house, should be safer there, and we just rode it out. It was pretty wild.
Oh my goodness! Hey, now at any point could it ever hit the diesel in explosions or anything? It didn't get close to that, to where it could have exploded.
In all honesty, is like, I don't think it would have caused that. We needed some kind of like a good ignition source.
Okay.
For the diesel to ignite like that. if it was sparked, then yeah, maybe a pretty good spark would have turned everything on. By that time, I would have been like, yeah, I'm out. I would have, just.
Well, good thing there
the
was
sign
no.
of the cross, and that's
good
it.
thing there was no spark. And now, was there any injuries between you four guys?
And just me and Paul. I don't know what exactly happened, but he twisted his ankle in a way.
Okay.
And it got pretty swollen. And then I tripped over a manhole trying to run. And then, I kind of, my ankle swelled up for a little bit, but that's basically it.
Have you been back to the job?
Yeah, I'm actually like the only one that's back in full operations.
Do you feel any like PTSD when you're there that like, I don't know, does it feel still kind of, do you feel nervous?
Oh, it's trippy. I ain't gonna lie. It is trippy. Like,
oh gosh.
Like the containers, when the crane operators let them down, sometimes, they need to let them down a little, like kind of like, you can't really let it down soft because the locks that they have on the foot of the containers won't really like engage or won't really like clamp on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like every time I hear like a boom, or even better, every time they take off the caps to go
lids.
under the hole, yeah, the lids. And, oh man, those get me going.
Get your heart rate up. Huh?
Yeah, it kind of wakes me up, but it's just the lids. But those lids are huge.
Oh yeah.
And then sometimes when they don't want to secure itself, sometimes they struggle, and then it's just even just a slight tap or anything is like a big boom.
Yeah.
And then we could feel the reverberations, even on our barge.
Wow.
Like even shakes our barge, and I'm like, damn.
Wow, I didn't realize that when they're taking the lids off. Huh.
So did it feel like everything was happening in slow motion, or what? Like, what were you thinking at that time when things were coming down? Were you just like, this is it, or just like, I gotta save my life?
Like honestly, I was like, I gotta survive. I was like, I can't let any of these containers hit me, or else I'm gone. I'm a goner. I was like, damn. So I had my life vest on, and I was like, I could jump in the water, or I could run away from the containers. And I was like, I don't really have that good mobility in the water, but I could run around this barge until I have to go in the water.
Right. You only had two options, and you took the right option. Staying on the barge was the safest one for you.
Yeah, I was like, I could run pretty quick. I'm pretty, I could dive, bob and weave, and dodge,
Yeah.
With these containers. I was like, you know what? I'll go with the one that I could control myself a little bit better. I just decided to run around the container. The barge. Because all these containers in the water just started like hitting each other. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to drown and get squished. So I'll just stay up here.
Oh yeah, them cans in the water, they're bobbing before they sink. They're moving all over. They could have crushed you in the water. There was a lot of them in the water, right?
So
we were just surrounded.
Yeah. How many actually landed on the barge?
So they never told us, but like a cool 70 or I think 80 or some containers fell off of the ship. Maybe a cool 30 containers were actually on the barge.
What?
Oh my goodness.
That many?
No, I won't say like specifically. You can't quote me on that, because they never told us. But one, I was surprised our spring lines and our bar outbound stern line, didn't snap. I was like, man, we did a pretty good job.
None of your lines broke there. Then they all stood.
Yeah, they're all good and everything. There was even containers between the Mississippi and our barge, and just stuck there, just pinned.
So tell me about your job. What do you do?
So we're basically a big old vacuum or catalytic converter with a vacuum. We adjust our boom over the stacks, and then we put a hose on it, and then we crank up a fan to create a vacuum, and then we could capture all the emissions and everything into the barge, into our system, reheat it up to where everything atomizes, and then inject urea or dead fluid into into the system where it could, like capture the majority of the NOx, CO2 emissions, and make it better for the atmosphere.
So you're just like a filter right there, right? Just a
Yeah,
large
we're
filter.
just a big old catalytic converter that uses the dead fluid to clean all the emissions and stuff.
Okay.
And you hook up to every ship that comes in over at ITS. You guys hook up to them?
Oh, I wouldn't say every ship right now. We're just trying to get as many contracts as we're able to, because sometimes the newer ships have shore power connections.
Cool.
But we're trying to get as many contracts as we can. Like tankers, they can't use shore power because it's a liability. So that's why they use us to regulate emissions and everything for them.
Yeah, you guys are real important for the environment.
Yeah, what's your company's name?
Stacks Engineering.
Okay, Stacks Engineering.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for sharing. That sounds so scary.
It was. It was like I've been in other situations. Like I broke my jaw in accident when I was off-roading. Like a Jeep fell on my face. Then part of my jaw is like metal.
Jeez. Oh my goodness.
And this was even scarier than a Jeep falling on your face?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I didn't have my daughters. Like this one I did have my daughters. I have both my daughters. And then at that time when I broke my face, I didn't have no kids. It was just me. So I was like, all right, like, go big or go home, just go for it. Now I can't go for it because, I got two little owners that, that need me.
That's right.
Definitely,
that's right. You're good. Yeah. You're a good father. I can tell that right now.
So I was like, yeah, I gotta survive. I gotta run. I can't be doing this. So yeah, I'm the one that returned. I returned after like 2 months because I was like, man, I need to pay these bills.
Yeah.
Bills don't care if you get in an accident or not. It happened on the Mississippi, and then my second week back, I requested to work on the Mississippi, and I was like, just get it over with. I'd just rather work it.
We interviewed the crane operator that was up there that was adjacent to you, and then we're going to interview the ship boss, and he was really concerned about you guys.
Yeah.
The first thing he said, he went offshore to make sure that you guys were okay. And
the ship boss he was kind of low key. He looked worried, but I was like, you could have just corrected your listing, bro. Like, who's in charge of that?
Yeah, no. Well, the ship boss, he's not in control of the list on the ship. It's the actual ship. The ship boss, he's just in control of taking the containers off and on the vessel. He has no control of the list or anything.
And
okay, yeah, they never told us what happened, like what actually happened. But I was like, man, this is that was a little scary, but I'm just glad everybody was cool.
Right.
Yeah, so that I forgot to ask you that. So when you guys saw the listing and you were thinking, what should we do? Do you have radio contact with the ship, or how does that work? Or you had to call your boss and they had to call the ship?
Oh no, we got direct radio contact with the ship. But first we wanted to make sure that like everybody, knew what's going on and what was the plan. Mm-hmm. We didn't want to just act and then somebody, it's out of the game plan, and then they might get hurt. We wanted to just make sure we're good, and then we were about to go and then do an adjustment because of the magnet was so low. So we're like, all right, we're already gonna see him, but before we were able to see him, all that happened.
Got it. So the adjustment that you make you do everything from the barge, or do you have to board the ship?
No, we have to board the ship.
Oh, you
do. We have to have actual eyes on the hose and the boom in order to make the adjustments. Because even if you have a camera or you can see it from the barge, it's not 100%, or like it's a greater chance of ripping the hose and then we're gonna have to fix that rip or change the hose, and then it just makes more work. And we just try to be as efficient as possible. Like a ripped hose doesn't really provide the amount of vacuum and a vacuum seal that we would want. There's a lot of escapes. So we need to go up. We always go up to make adjustments.
Thank you, Ernesto. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right, for sure. You guys have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, righteous. Bye.
Okay, Dad. Wow, that was incredible story.
Incredible story.
Oh my gosh. I just can't. Well, I'm so happy that these guys are willing to tell their side of the story and we can hear it. So follow along, everybody. The saga of
the cans falling in the water at ITS. We'll come up with something.
If you have a cool name for this investigation, please leave it in the comments because we're at a loss, but I think it deserves its own name, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
yes,
so send in your names and we'll announce them on the next series of these interviews. We're going to interview a ship boss. We're going to interview lots of different people, getting their perspectives, and ultimately find out what the heck happened. Because it's still nobody, I don't know. They say nobody knows what happened, but
there's a lot of things going on, a lot of theories that happened, but somebody knows exactly what happened. And believe us, we will get to the bottom of this.
All right. Catch you on the next one.
Thanks again for listening. This has been On the Waterfront with Coach, hosted by Edward Barreras and Marina Barreras Hernandez. Production and engineering by me, Buddy Barreras, and recorded in collaboration with the Avalon Arts and Cultural Alliance. Proudly made in the heart of the harbor, Wilmington, California.